Good evening, Nigeria, and welcome to Politics on Sunday. I am Femi Akonde. Tonight, we turn our focus to the intensifying power plays ahead of the 2027 general elections. As Nigeria's political climate continues to evolve, at the heart of it is the ruling party's strategic efforts to outmaneuver an increasingly vocal opposition coalition, one that is struggling to stay united in the face of internal contradictions and shifting loyalties. As Nigeria's political terrain takes on new dimensions, the race towards 2027 is already underway, and it's not without high-stakes maneuvering. The ruling All Progressives Congress appears to be tightening its grip by exploiting cracks within opposition ranks and forging new alliances, both overt and silent. From welcoming defectors to recalibrating its internal power blocks, the APC is positioning itself to maintain dominance, even as criticisms mount over governance issues and economic pressures. Meanwhile, the opposition coalition, led by parties such as the People's Democratic Party, Labour Party, and the New Nigeria People's Party, continue to struggle with ideological differences, leadership rivalries, and the absence of a unified front. Well, with less than 2 years to go, the political temperature is rising. But whether strategy will triumph over sentiment or vice versa remains a question only the ballot will answer. Well, for more on this development, let's bring in a chieftain of the All Progressives Congress, Adamu Garba, who is live with us here in the studio. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
And it's good to see you again.
Good to see you, Mr.
Well, I'll start with this tweet, a very disturbing tweet you put out as a member of the All Progressives Congress. You said, at the rate at which members of the PDP and APC are resigning to join the ADC in the North is alarming. I think it's high time we members of the APC start writing our affirmation letters, confirming our unwavering commitment to the membership of our party. What do you think? What do you think? Is this really the case? Are people beginning to leave APC in droves to the ADC?
Yeah, I want to start by, condoling Nigerians first on the demise of some of the greatest statesmen that we have. In fact, this quarter has been very tough for us. We lost Professor Jibril Amin, who was a renowned statesman. We also lost Alhaji Aminu Nantata. Yeah. We also lost President Muhammadu Buhari and Awujale. So you see, this is really tough for us. May God continue to rest their soul. Yeah. And be that as it may, what I tweeted was right. We have this thinking, once you are within the power cycle, especially when you are having the power, the thinking that everything is okay. So we that are core members of the party, that are talking with the people at the grassroots, if you recall my history, I was a presidential aspirant twice, we have a lot of information about what is happening and what is the feelings of the people at the grassroots, especially in northern part of Nigeria. So it's becoming alarming, and if we just folded our arms and do nothing, eventually it will come to hurt us very deeply. And that's why I sounded this alarm.
Why I'm asking is that we've had members of the APC sit on that same chair where you're sitting and dismissed these kind of concerns with just a wave of the hand.
That's exactly because the complaint I'm telling you. You see, the problem is people will just have to assume there is a lot of flattery and sycophancy within the party now. And this is really not good for us, because politics is a game of numbers, games of reality. So when something is happening, we shouldn't just dismiss it outrightly. We had a history in this country where we had a government that felt like they have total control. And at the end of the day, they face one of the devastating embarrassment, which is the government of Jonathan in 2014, 2015. So we need to be very, very careful and be sensitive and be assertive and be deliberate in trying to make sure that we hold our bases critically, especially with the demise with President Muhammadu Buhari.
So are you saying there's a possibility that the APC could lose its grip and even lose majority votes at the election if they continue to dismiss concerns as the one you just raised?
Frankly speaking, yes. And I can give you this empirically. You see, President Muhammadu Buhari has been the soul of APC in the North. And now he is no longer alive. May God rest his soul. And if you look at the computation of the elections that we have had, in 2015, he delivers 12 million votes. In 2019, he delivers the same numbers. But in 2023, when he wasn't on the ballot, we got only 5.5 million votes in the North. Even though President Tinubu became the first in the North on the mantra of the so-called Muslim ticket, right? But then we cannot just relax and feel like this is something that will continue to come, because the sensibility and the tendency that Buhari built around his following was built based on trust over time. Hope because of the last thing he did 1984, 1985, and trust based on his consistency and deliberate effort to try to see a better Nigeria according to what people, as followers, thought, right? So now he's no longer there. Now who is going to guarantee this trust? So that means we have to recalibrate our strategies. We have to review our entire political machine, organizing ourselves to confront what is coming. Because the challenge is, if we decide to fold our arms and do nothing, I'm telling you that we are in for a very devastating embarrassment. And that is why I began to sound the alarm on time.
That was even before the death of President Muhammad Buhari. That's when you put out this tweet.
That was the beginning of when APC started facing this kind of, when we began to see the ADC, things started coming. But then his death again amplifies the thing. I did another video, I think 2 days ago or so, where I mentioned this critical issue. We need to recalibrate our strategy, especially in northern Nigeria, right? For us to be able to maintain our base, for us to be able to build the machine that can sustain our victory. But if we decide to fold our arms and just succumb to cheap sycophancy, I'm telling you that it's not going to be good for us. Especially the fact that if you look at, we have two aspects in Nigeria today, especially we in the APC, we have the government in our hand, but the politics is being distorted. From the beginning of coming of this administration, the president started facing sabotage by removing subsidy. People now began to cash out on this. Some of the sabotage even came from within, the NNPC where it hurts most. A lot of issues happened. Protests came on board. This one and that one were able to contain that situation. And don't forget, there were a lot of misinformation, disinformation, and fake news that went out again about the so-called Malta challenges and all those kind of things. So we were able to contain this issue, but that doesn't mean that the opposition doesn't have things in their basket to confront us. So the best solution is for us to find a way to reorganize the politics. We have the government, and the government has been doing an extremely well, except that we don't blow our trumpet the way we should do. And that is actually one of also our weakness. Our weakness is that we have a government, but we are slightly losing the politics. We didn't organize our party properly. So many party members are feeling alienated from the system. So there is a little bit of...
Are you talking about the North now, or generally on a national scale?
I think when you look at it in the national scale, like for especially like in the Southwest, there are so many concerns that I had. I have friends there, even in the Southwest where the president base come from, that most of the representation within the cabinet have not come from the political camps. They were just technocrats. So politicians are not carried along.
They have refused to touch base with the people.
Exactly. So that's where the problem is. Like if you go to all the ministers that came from the South, it's the same thing. If you come to the ministers that came from other places, if you come to the major critical offices that the president appointed, they were all politicians are not carried along. And these politicians are actually the main engine that control the base.
Should this matter? Shouldn't their results be the yardstick? Their performance shouldn't it be the yardstick that should be used in judging them?
You see, the challenge is this, right? We have this mantra of technocracy, right? Unfortunately, from within the politicians, there are some that are highly technocratic. And when it comes to democratic governance, you are not looking at just government performance, you are also looking at the political performance, because you need guarantee of trust from the citizenry. One of the mega problems we are facing is lack of trust, a disconnect of trust between the leadership and the led. And the only gap, the only people that will bridge this gap are politicians. And the politicians, the only thing they need is recognition and being carried along. A situation whereby they feel alienated is very, very dangerous. Now, when it comes to the governance, as I said earlier, we have done a very, very good job in the area of economy, in the area of security, even though there are mounting concerns, people are talking about these things. But what we recorded, especially in the area of security, is something that we have never seen in Nigeria since the resurgence of Boko Haram in 2019. Almost all the regions of the country have some level of stability. Now, we have 75 strong bandits in Nigeria prior to the takeover of this government. Today, we have only 3 alive. Almost all the major ones have been eliminated, especially in the northwest. In the northeast, Boko Haram is simply happening in paper. You hardly even hear any news again about Boko Haram because they are completely content.
But there's still a concern in the north central, especially Plateau State.
Now,
it's recurring.
Yes, when you look at the Plateau and Benue case, it's actually majorly ethnic issue, and it's an inter-ethnic. Want to escape responsibility of ethnicization of the crisis. That's why he's shifting blame. But the major crux of the issue is actually ethnic. And you know, when it comes to ethnic issue, it has to do with indigenship. And issues of indigenship are usually driven by state government. And the state government is who is responsible for the indigens. So your responsibility is to organize them and bring them together so that you can have a harmony and peace in your state. But the situation whereby you fail in your responsibility, you are just shifting blame. How many military do we lose there? We lost a general in Plateau State where he was killed by ethnic militia and was thrown into a well. We know about that. So many military men lost their lives. So you can't blame the military.
And that they say is because of a distrust now, because these people see the military as not working in their interest, as not working to protect them. They have the military doing patrols and all of that, but still these attacks happen at night.
Just because the governor needs to.
And when the people defend themselves, they are then rounded up and arrested for bearing light arms or some kind of light weapons to defend themselves. But these attackers who come in with sophisticated weapons carry out this mayhem and even leave without anybody even arresting them.
I cannot remember any law in Nigeria that allows ordinary citizens to carry arms. We are yet to be there, right?
But then the authorities or the military authorities in that area have failed to defend the citizens.
No, I tell you, the military are doing their best. But you cannot defend somebody who wants to fight against himself. That is where the problem is. You are my neighbor, I am your neighbor. How can I have a military protection, me and you have a military protection? How many millions of people do we need to have for military protection? So there must be harmony. The governor have to organize his community to understand that peace, harmony and togetherness is actually much more important than the crisis that is being inflamed. A situation whereby the governor is blaming outside, it means that he's inviting more mayhem to the state, and that contributes to lack of security. So that is actually wrong. The military have done their best. When it comes to the security front, I think this country has done a very fantastic job, to be very, very candid with you. And if you come to the economy, we also did a very good job. All countries that develop, if you look at China, today that we celebrate, you look at Indonesia, most recently is rising. When you look at Malaysia, you know, when you look at Singapore, that we used to give references to, what you do to develop a third world economy is to centralize resources, to concentrate centralization of the resources. This government have done a very good job by removing subsidy. By removing subsidy, we have a lot of pool of cash at the center, number one. Number two, we have done a very exciting tax reform that further centralizes the resources around Nigerian Revenue Service. Now, if we continue in this trajectory, it's likely that by the time we are hitting 2027, we may likely pass a budget of 150 trillion. The minimum a state can get in Nigeria is 2 trillion. That is how you develop the economy.
But how well do Nigerians understand, you know, all of these achievements and successes, you know, of this administration that you are just really now? Because the feedback you get from Nigerians on a daily basis is that things are hard. We are hungry. We do not have enough cash at hand. Our disposable income, our purchasing power is declining every day. That's the feedback you get.
That's very, very correct, because the people are disconnected from the governance. Sometimes I used to wonder, what are the cabinet ministers doing? Why is it that we don't carry people along? Why is it that the government doesn't blow its trumpet as it should do? That is actually where the concern is. There are visible, successful programs this government ran on renewed hope, and that hope is now coming, right? So before you get to consume hope, you must do some sacrifice. Now the sacrifices have been done, some regulations have been amended, some structures have been put in place where we begin to benefit. Meanwhile, the people are not carried along. They don't even know what's happening. The only thing they do is, I go out, the cost of transportation is high.
Is it about being carried along now, or they're not even feeling it? Are these achievements something that they can see, they can touch, they can feel?
You see, reform usually takes time. There must be bureaucracy. There must be navigation across the law, across the structures to enable the framework that will reach out to the common man. And this period will always experience a slowdown. There is nobody in Nigeria, including myself, that is not feeling the heat of the changes. But we understood where we are headed. Now, if people need to understand that there is a direction we are headed, and that direction will ultimately result in prosperity for all. But this kind of communication is no longer existing. People just feel like, if I go to buy tomato in the market, yesterday it was 5 naira, today is 15 naira, Tinubu government, Tinubu government, Tinubu government, because they don't understand what Tinubu government is trying to do to make it easier for them going forward in the future. And that's where the issue is. So we need a lot of issues. We have a lot of fundamental disconnects. From the politics side, we have serious disconnect. From the party side, I pray that this mini convention that is going to, the next meeting that is going to take place on the 24th is going to bring about some balance, because as it is now, I don't see us like having a party, right? Because it's just scattered, you know. So again, we now also have, again, from the opposition side, cashing out massively, you know, on the anger and anguish and pain of ordinary people. And then we also have the biggest juggernaut in the north, who used to hold the base for us, who is no longer alive. It means we need to build a new trust metric. We need to recalibrate our strategy. We need to go back and build this trust. Else, the last election, we won, as I said, in the north with 5.5 million votes. The total victory was about 8.7 million votes, right? This is a minority victory, a 33% victory. Now, we have Peter Obi winning the south, you know, and then we now have President Tinubu winning the north, right? So, and don't forget, even after we won the north, we lost some of the stronghold of the APC. Yeah. We lost Katsina, we lost Kaduna, we lost Kano, we lost Yobe. And I think, again, one of the states of the north central, we lost Sokoto, right? We only won Zamfara and Jigawa state. Now, what is happening again now that people are feeling pain and they don't understand what's happening?
By the way you were speaking earlier, you know, I listened attentively, and you insinuated that the feedback the president is getting from the north is not correct, or is not reflective of the popularity of the government in that area. You talked about, you know, hypocrisy and sycophancy. Are you then saying that these big players in the APC from the north are not in tune, or are not connected, are no longer connected with the people, or they deliberately want to sabotage the APC administration and then take the votes elsewhere?
No, I don't think there's a need for sabotage. I don't think it's an issue of sabotage or effort of sabotage. You see, there are two political tendencies in Nigeria, especially between the north and the south, particularly southwest and the north. The southwest built its political machine on loyalty, right? While the north builds its political machine on trust. Now, they have to trust you. That is why you see Buhari doesn't give money. He has no money to give when he was alive. There is nothing like very seriously other than the fact that he's a clean man, and because of that they trusted him. So if you force them to do blind loyalty, they will resort to flattery and sycophancy. And the tendency for betrayal at the end of the day is very high.
And that's what is happening.
That is what is happening. So what you do is allow them to flow their politics as they used to do to build that trust network, or bring people that have trust of the people that will go and continue to re-engineer this machine. People should understand. People should create trust. And if a northerner trusted you politically, they will, no matter the difficulty, they will understand. And that is why you see we had the recession during Buhari's first term, a lot of concern. In fact, the rise of banditry was so high. Completely, the government during the first time of Buhari was a scattered government. But then, people still trusted and gave him second term.
But you know, a lot of these politicians you may be referring to, you know, all of them also came to power or won election on the wave of that change, you know, that change mantra that brought the Buhari administration into office, that popular mandate the Buhari administration got. On their own, some people say a lot of them do not really have political capital or even political goodwill. They may not be able to get enough vote and support from the grassroots. They were just hiding under the shadows of President Buhari. And now, as President Buhari is gone, a lot of them have been exposed and may not necessarily be seen, or may not necessarily be able to deliver this vote anymore.
You are completely right. That's actually the picture, because most of them, if you check the history pre-Buhari, is practically empty. It is now post-Buhari that they are trying to package themselves as political leaders.
So a lot of those ministers were now seen moving to the ADC, who claim that they are from the CPC bloc, you know, and they are Buharists. You are saying that, you know, they actually do not have that capacity to move votes to the ADC.
At all. Their all target is that we want to cash out. We want to cash out from the current challenges, perceived challenges that Nigerians are facing. That's what they do. And they now package themselves, aligning with the same post-Buhari term, and then try to say how they can be able to get the chunk of Buhari vote. Some of them even aligning by saying that Buhari actually handed them responsibility to carry on with the political structures that he has. Why? Because he's no longer there. Nobody can validate that. So it means that we will also have to have our strategy to cash out. We have to increase our voting power. If we don't do that, we will leave it like that. And I'm telling you, it's going to be embarrassing for us. So the best solution is for us to look at these things in realistic terms. Not any politics. Sometimes you may not want to hear it if it is not good news for you. But it is a reality. It's the numbers that play. And a situation whereby we don't work assiduously to consolidate the base and increase our pool, we're having a challenge. And that is actually what I foresee for us.
You know, the ADC also said recently, you know, they criticized the administration of President Bola Tinubu over some appointments made recently that, you know, the APC is trying to win the support of the North with this kind of token appointment, especially that of Mohammed Babangida recently and some other Northerners. Do you see the North as seeing all of these appointments as sort of a compensation, and meaning that they would have to give votes in return to the government?
What is APC's counter response to that? Because if an ordinary man picks this information, then what is a counter response, right? What are we saying to that effect? Now, you can't appoint someone today just by making phone call and say, I'm appointing you because of the realities. He has to pass through security clearance. He has to pass through different levels of investigation. He has to submit his CV. A lot of work must have been done. So maybe the process of appointing Mohammed Babangida must have started 6 months ago, right? It was just published recently. But then, this is what the ADC says. Now, what are we saying to counter this? What are our facts?
We have also seen the ADC's, the APC's response to the ADC statement, you know, criticizing the state's funeral and, you know, the expanded FEC meeting that was organized to honor President Buhari. You know, they say that it's like a whitewash of the APC's image, battered image, according to them.
Of course, it's a credit to APC. So you don't expect them to allow APC to take the credit. It's a very good credit. What the president did was a very good job, and that is why they are trying to maybe create another issue around it.
Thank you very much. We have to go now. Thank you so much for your time on the program. I sincerely appreciate. Well, that's it on the program. Today, you can see this episode again on TVC News YouTube channel. Thank you very much for watching. I am Femi Akonde. See you next time.